Hello, I'm John Feldt. Welcome to the weekly water outlook for January 19th, 2014. Well, I'll give you a hint. I'm going to be talking about the same old story we've had all winter long. It looks like these prevailing trends are going to persist, and that means cold temperatures, and it looks like unusually cold temperatures into the foreseeable future. Now, here's the latest temperature overview. The blues and the purples are the colder air, and this pattern of cold air sinking south has been the story. We might have a reprieve over parts of the nation early this week, but then it looks like colder air will be settling in. Now, if we look at the last 7 days, the observed precipitation, it generally was a quiet week. The main snow bands, and I'm going to be talking about this a bit as well, have been in the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes, and we have the wind flow over the Great Lakes. We have enhancement of snow on the lee side. We had a bit of lighter precipitation over parts of the southeast U.S., and then continued dry weather over the west. You've probably heard record dry conditions over the far west, as well as Oklahoma and Texas, also quite quiet weather over the last week. Matter of fact, the percent of normal precipitation, here's red, 25% of normal. So with the exception of a very small part of the upper Midwest, most of the nation was quite dry last week. Southeast U.S., anywhere from 25% to maybe up to 50% of normal. Southwest U.S., 0% of normal, and that extended into, like I said, parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and most of Texas as well. Now, the upper Midwest, parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, that has been that active band. Now, it wasn't unusually snowy this week, but there was some narrow bands of heavier snow that I'll be talking about in just a bit, but that did average out another week above normal. Now let's step back. If we can look at the last 30 days percent of normal, and this is where I look at do we have emerging new trends, winter trends, or not? And it looks like right here, this was an earlier trend that sort of fizzled out. I don't really see this active precipitation band over parts of the Ohio Valley. The southeast U.S., remember that, quite wet as well. That also has been diminishing, but it looks like the band in the upper Midwest has been fairly active, and then if anything, it's been a bit dry over the south central part of the U.S. Now, temperatures last week, areas in green and blue experienced below normal temperatures, areas of yellow above normal. But if you look at these shades of coloring, with the exception of the upper Midwest, they were close to that zero line. So overall, temperatures across most of the south and southeast U.S. averaged fairly close to normal over the last 7 days. Snowfall was limited to the upper Midwest. You can see here the heaviest snow, parts of Minnesota up into the Great Lakes, and that's that area blue. And in case you're interested, here's the snow depth. I'll be looking at the water equivalent a lot more over the next month or so, starting in February. Right now, over the eastern U.S., really the higher elevations, that's the only place where we have snow right now. And the snow is really eroded over parts of the middle part of the nation. Okay, so let's talk about this upcoming week. We have some interesting things going on. First of all, these are the current steering winds, and the areas of red and purple are the areas of upper atmospheric energy that's going to cause precipitation. So really, as we go through the week, there's going to be some of these pockets of energy in the upper Midwest here, sort of moving in this direction. That's that prevailing trend, one of the trends that I've been talking about. And over the rest of the nation, I don't really see a whole lot. Now, if we go out later this week, this is a view of later this week towards Thursday. Again, fairly quiet as far as these packets or pockets of energy go. But we are beginning to get some upper flow developing that's going to be sagging south. I'm going to be talking about another sinking south of the polar vortex, Arctic vortex, as we get into the latter part of January. So as far as precipitation, next 7 days, really nothing all that significant. Some lighter precipitation showers over the southern sections of the U.S. from the Gulf Coast into the southeast U.S., but it looks pretty light. It looks like that more active pattern that started last year has really not really organized as we've got into 2014 as much as it was earlier in the winter season. That doesn't mean it can't come back, but right now I don't really see it at the current time. Over the south central U.S., it looks like a very quiet week over Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas with either no precipitation or light precipitation. But late in the forecast period, there's some interesting weather going on in that region. As far as snow accumulation, the bands of snow look like they will be confined to this band that we've seen. Here's that lee side of the lake snow. And here's some light snow in that northwest flow, maybe some light snow in the Ohio Valley. But really, other than the higher elevations, nothing in the southeast U.S., maybe some flurries. But look at this here. This is something late in the forecast period that we're looking at over the weekend. Possibility of some more significant winter precipitation over parts of Oklahoma and Texas, and that's going to be later towards the 23rd, 24th, 25th period. So later in the period, so a lot can change, but I just wanted to bring your attention. There could be some snow over the southern U.S. Now, the weekly hazards outlook, as we've seen for quite some time now, the hazard is a temperature hazard, and it's really looking like we're going to have several rotations of this polar vortex sinking south. And I see one coming in the 26th to the 30th roughly, and another one coming in into February. I'll be talking about that in the long-range outlook. But that has been this prevailing trend, and I don't see much change. Now, on the weekly hazards outlook, like we've seen for a while now, the main hazard is going to be temperature hazard with unusually cold temperatures ushering in the wobbling of this polar vortex. Looks like the 26th through 30th, but that won't be the last time that we see that cold air. Now, as we look at precipitation patterns through January 29th, we see a couple patterns here. We see that upper Midwest snow track that looks like it's going to continue. We see that band of perhaps winter precipitation in parts of Oklahoma and Texas. And then we see a dry pattern through much of the Midwest into the southeast U.S. So it looks fairly dry over that region right through the end of January. Now, I said I'd talk about the long-term temperature and precipitation, and a lot to show here in a short period of time, so I'll sort of go through it. Let's first look at temperatures, and this is week 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this goes all the way out into the middle of February. Keep in mind, when we're looking at a model that far out, things can change, but it does give us some idea on trends. Blues and greens are below normal temperatures. Let's go through here. Green is slight to moderately below normal. The blues, the very cold below normal. So here we go, week 1, below normal temperatures. And then we go through the second week here, more noticeably below normal temperatures over the upper Midwest, extending across most of the eastern U.S. And that's that first wobble of the polar vortex as cold air sinks below, well below normal. Week 3, it's really dominating. Now, this is the early part of February, so I think we're looking at early February. Late January into early February really looks like a very cold spell. And right now, over large parts of the country, right into mid-February. So I think we're ushering in late this month in January, generally the 26th, and then going into the early part of February, maybe even mid-February, unusually cold temperatures. So what about precipitation? This is week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. In this image, reds are below normal temperatures and green is above normal. So here's week 1. Looks very dry signal. Week 2, relatively dry signal over a large part of the region. Week 3, maybe I might call this normal. And week 4, maybe over the southeast U.S. a little bit more action. But generally speaking, I don't see any real strong wet signals either for snow or rain over these 4-week periods. That doesn't mean that prevailing snow band over the upper Midwest won't continue, because it will, but I don't see any persistent heavy precipitation. Really, that's not unusual. When you get the very cold air, oftentimes that's what you get. So prevailing winter trends look like they're going to persist, and we're going to have the polar vortex sinking south again and reinforcing very cold air starting the latter part of January, continuing right through the middle part of February. I'll be providing a lot of information this week, and if you have any questions, you can reach me at my email here. Nice talking to you once again. I'll be in contact soon.